This is the outline. Basically, as I said, I'm going to study the protein at the molecular level, 10 to the negative 10 meters. Okay. So at that level, the electrostatic interaction are very, very important. Okay. So that's why I'm going to have models to study the electrostatic interaction, which is the model is called the Poisson-Boltzmann model. And then when we try to solve the Poisson-Boltzmann model, we use what we call the boundary integral method. Okay, so the idea is the model original the Poisson-Boltzmann equation is a differential equation, but we can do the integral in the 3D space, then convert the differential equation to the integral equation, and then we can solve it. The advantage I will show you has many aspects of doing that. Okay, so we'll talk about the discretization, multiple methods to speed up. And also how to, when we have this, eventually when you solve a problem using numerical method, usually after mathematical modeling, you will have the discretized system of equations there, which is AX equals B, okay, the matrix vector equals the vector. And then to do this, to solve this matrix system, we can use some preconditioning method to speed it up. Also, we will talk about pairwization. Okay, we consider load balance, the MPI, and the GPU. And finally, in the past 2-3 years, I began to touch machine learning. Okay, but the transition will not be as smooth because I don't have that much experience on that. So gradually, from the things I have studied numerical methods, and I try to connect the machine learning method to that to receive some results there. Okay, so let's see what we have. First, I will emphasize the importance of the electrostatics. So at the molecular level, okay, when we talk about the protein-protein interaction, if these two proteins they dock together, they form a complex. So what decided if they will form a complex? Okay, so we need to the complements in those geometry. Okay, and also for example convex, concave up, concave down. Or the other one is you also need to complements in electrostatics, positive and negative, then they combine. Okay. Also, when you look at the ion channels, okay, so we have a lot of channels in our bodies there. A lot of diseases are related to ion channel. So whether or not the ion can pass through the channel, okay, is related to the electrostatics there. Because the ion itself is like calcium ion, potassium ion. Those are tiny carry the charges there. Okay. And then another example is chromatin. Okay, so this is the one on the top. This is the DNA sequence, which has 2 meters long. Okay, 2 meters long, very long. Okay, but we can fold them and fold them and fold them in different level. Eventually, it becomes what we call a chromatin. It's inside the nucleus of the cell, tiny space. So this kind of very, very dedicated folding procedure there, and the electrostatics also play a significant role on that. Okay, so these are examples about how important the electrostatic is in the simulation of molecular at the small molecules there. Okay, now let's look at the model. Okay, the model. So basically, Poisson-Boltzmann model is a Poisson equation. Okay, left hand side is the divergence of the gradient of the potential. So the phi is the potential. Okay, and then the right hand side is the distribution. Okay, charge distribution. It could be a continuous function, or it could be. But here, if we think about the isolated charges, we use delta function to represent it. Okay, so basically it's the Poisson equation, left hand side, divergence of the gradient of the potential, right hand side is the charge distribution. And then, as I said, for protein simulation, protein is simulated, is represented by a collection of atoms, which are spheres. Okay, and then at the center of the sphere, we put some charges there. Okay, so that's a single charge. So we use the delta function to represent it. Okay, so this is for the inside, and then for the outside, we have those electrolytes. For example, in salts, you have sodium, right? Potassium, those kind of mobile electrolytes. So those things there, there are too many of them. We don't simulate them individually using their function. Instead, we use the statistical distribution to represent it. So that will give you the Boltzmann distribution. So inside is the partial charge represented by the alpha function. Outside is the Boltzmann distribution. Okay? And then if we do the linearization of that, we got this kappa times phi. And then across the interface, okay, this is the variable we are interested in right now is the electrostatic potential. So the electrostatic potential is a physical quantity. It follows physical laws. So basically, across interface, the electrostatic potential is continuous. Okay, and also the flux density, which is the gradient, the normal derivative of the potential. Okay? The normal derivative of potential times the constant of permittivity. So basically, epsilon times the normal derivative of the potential should be continuous. So these two is a continuity. Okay, the flux density is continuous. The potential is continuous. And if these two has to be continuous, okay, then the potential itself, the derivative of the potential, or the gradient of the potential, or the normal derivative of the potential will not be continuous anymore. Okay, so that basically tells us potential across interface is something like this. It is a continuous function, but not necessarily smooth. Okay, so which means if you just use regular finite difference method to solve for it, you might run into accuracy reductions. Okay. Okay. So this is the what we call the interface condition. Okay. And then we can also extend the model. Okay, to a little bit more complicated one. We call the Poisson-Nernst-Planck model. Basically, it's for the Poisson-Boltzmann model. The electrolytes, okay, is characterized by statistic distribution, the Boltzmann distribution. Okay, but if we want more details about the electrolytes, okay, all these things there, then we can use diffusion equation, okay, to represent the concentration of the mobile ions, and then they give us the Poisson-Nernst-Planck model. And also we can, for the domain, for the Poisson-Boltzmann model, it's just have inside and outside. But for the Poisson-Nernst-Planck model, you can have this solvent domain, you can have this protein domain, you can have this memory domain. So you can extend the model to a little bit more complicated. For today's talk, I will just focus on the Poisson-Boltzmann model. Okay. Okay, so let me repeat this again. Okay, about this corresponding. This is for the Poisson-Nernst-Planck PMP model. What will be the right hand side? Okay, and what will be the mobile electrolytes, and then numerical challenges there. Okay, so I just explained the model. So let's look at the numerical challenges. Number one is the singular charge. Okay, so singular is delta function. So how do we represent delta function in our numerical solvers there? Okay. Number two, as I said, those interface conditions there. Okay, you have the continuity of the potential. You have the continuity of the flux density, which means your potential is not smooth like this. Okay, then how do we use a numerical method that can capture the jump or the non-smoothness? And also we have complex geometry, because our target is the protein. Okay, which is very complicated. Okay, three-dimensional structure like this. Okay, so how do we characterize this complex geometry? And also boundary condition at infinity. So we don't actually have a box, because when you have this protein solvated into the water, okay, you are thinking about the water is like infinite. Okay, so the electrostatic potential decay slowly. So you actually have dealing with a domain of infinity size. Okay, then how do we deal with that? And then eventually larger scale computation, because your protein can be actually huge. Okay, a lot of details there. Okay, so those are the numerical challenges there. And how do we address these challenges there? We have essentially two approaches. Okay, one is called matched interface and boundary method. So basically, for this method, the idea is we can use the interface jump conditions there. Okay, to capture the non-smoothness of the potential across the interface. What we do is we use the local high-order interpretation for a geometrical singularity. And then we use Green's function-based charge regulation. So basically, if you use Green's function, you write your solution, the potential, okay, as the two parts. One is Green's function, and the other one is a correction term. And then the Green's function actually solves the equation with the delta function. So it takes away the delta function part. And then all the correction term will actually be solved in a much easier way. So this is the final difference, okay? So, which is not the core thing I'm going to explain today. And today what I'm going to mention is what we can have here is the boundary interval method. Basically, it's if you look at the Poisson-Boltzmann equation in the previous slides there, it's a differential equation. Okay, it's a differential equation. You have the Laplacian over there, and then what we need to do here is you can actually do a three-dimensional integral, okay, in the space to convert this differential operator into the integral operators there. Of course, there's some like technical details that you need to involve the Green's function, Green's identity to get the final result. But I just want to see you get this idea, okay? Do the integral of the differential equation, and then you will end up with the integral equation. Okay, that's the idea. Okay, and once you become the integral equation, if you remember divergence theorem, okay, in calculus, when you do the integral, what happens? Divergence theorem, okay? So it becomes the surface, right? Surface integral. So which means all you need to worry about is on the surface. You don't need to worry about two-dimensional space there. All your attention is on the surface. That's one-dimensional reduction, okay? Makes things easier. So basically, this is the advantage there, okay? So you can resolve interface jump conditions and charge singularity analytically. You can reduce the dimension onto the surface integral, and then we can also use tree code of as multiple method to accelerate the matrix vector product in GMRS. GMRS is a numerical linear algebra solver eventually you're going to use. Okay. So this kind of method has another very important advantage is it's in O of n in memory, and O of n log n and O of n in flops there. So make it a very efficient method there, both in CPU time and memory.
What's flops means?
It's the floating number per second. Floating number operation per second. That's flops. Yeah. So basically, when we say a machine is very quickly, then it will have very high flops per second. Yeah. Okay, and then let's look at about this method there. So I wouldn't mention very much details there, but I just want to deliver some important ideas related to the solvers there. I will mention a few things there. If you think too much formulas, you can ignore that part. Okay, just listen to the idea I try to deliver. Okay. Okay. So first, about the formulas there. Okay. So basically, you do the integral. Consider the interface jump condition, and then you convert the differential equation to integral equation. Okay. So basically, you have form like that. And then the L1, L2, L3, L4 is what we call the kernels. Okay, and then basically the idea is you have the you can think Y as like source, okay, which introduce potential through this relationship to get the potential here. Okay, you can think that Y as the source to introduce the potential, and you will get the induced potential. You will get the potential at X. Okay, okay. And then this, you may say, oh, you make things even worse, right? Because the differential equation is complicated, but only two or three of them, and inside and outside. But right now, you look at your integral equation, you have so many of them, okay, and also each kernel is so complicated. So the impact is all these things there, okay. It looks very complicated. It's actually composed of the G0 and G kappa. Okay, so what is G0 and G kappa? They are just what we call the Green's functions there. Okay, also the right hand side is also G0 and G kappa. G0. So all the G0 is basically just what we call Coulomb potential. Okay, and the G kappa is the called screening kernel potential. So basically, all those kernels there are like the linear combination, okay, of the derivative or the original function of G0 and G kappa. So we have actually a very common pattern for everything over there. Okay, now if we do the discretization, okay, so discretization means right now you have an integral over there that's continuous, right? But if you think your surface is consists of a lot of triangles there, then you basically on each small triangle you calculate the result and add it to the result and another small triangle and add them together. This is called discretization. Okay, so when you do if you did the discretization, okay, and you actually can have what we call the discretized form, which is the AX equals B. Here the A including all the kernels there, okay, X is unknown, the potential and the normal derivative potential. And then when you use what we call the Weihua method, as an iterative method, to solve the AX equals B, okay, what do you need to do? The iterative method means what? You need to repeatedly calculate A times X, okay, repeatedly having X. So this kind of procedure, okay, is actually equivalent to what we call the n-body problem. Basically, you can think you have a lot of charges, okay, at the location Yj, and then through this kernel Green's function, you will get the potential at xi. Okay, so all the charges there through this kernel, you will get potential in Yj. So this is the n-body problem. Okay, for example, if you think about the universe, okay, like the whole universe, like a galaxy, okay, and then all the stars, they have certain gravity on the Earth, right? So Earth is the place you get all the potential, and you can think that's the weight, okay, of all the other stars, okay, all planets. So that's the same idea. So with the n-body problem, it's very popular. As far as you have pairwise interaction, that's the n-body problem. Okay, and then we can actually use the multiple method, okay, to do that. Okay. So now let me explain the idea of the multiple method. So basically, as I said, for direct pairwise summation, it's O of n squared. For example, you have a universe, you have a lot of stars, and you want to calculate the interaction of all of them. So each star will be interacting with everything else. So altogether you have n. So the direct summation is O of n squared, right? So that's the n-body problem typically. And then we can use what we call tree code, okay, to convert this O of n squared computation to O of n log n. Okay. So the fast or we can use the fast multiple method to convert this O of n squared computation to O of n. Okay. So that's the biggest setup, right? Because the n squared goes like this way, n goes this way, right? And then n log n is a little bit more than the O of n, but it is also pretty good. Okay. Okay. So to understand this, you need to use understand when we look about tree code or fast multiple method, you need to understand the interaction and the formulation. Okay. So formulation part is quite headache. So I wouldn't spend too much on that, but I hope you can get to the idea about the interaction over there. Okay. Okay. So first, I will explain the important critical idea about or the basic idea about the multiple expansion. Okay. So the idea is from the Taylor expansion. Okay. So basically, if I have a source at y, and I have target at x. Okay. And then you want to find the interaction between x and y. Okay. For example, you want to calculate the potential at x due to the source at y. Okay. So you use this g of x, y to represent it. Okay. So and then sometimes okay, you can think this y is like a perturbed value about the yc. Then you can have this Taylor expansion. You think x is the constant. Okay. Just like constant. But y is the independent variable, but it's perturbed from yc. So you have this Taylor expansion over there, right? I believe this, I expect some undergraduates here try to explain this slide. Okay, and then now this is one dimension, okay? And then three-dimensional, things becomes more complicated, but it just needs, the idea is the same, but you just need to be more comfortable with about this three-dimensional tail expansion, okay? So the same thing, you have a target at X, you have the source at Y, and just highlight, I use both letters means they are three-dimensional, okay? And then also this, you can think this Y is some perturbative value from YC. And then if you want to get the GXY, you can also do the Taylor expansion about the YC, okay? But right now, if I pick the first term, and you will get like the derivative with respect to Y1, okay? Because Y now has three-dimensional, and then you have three terms, and then you can keep on adding more term. But if I want to write everything in a relatively simple form, you actually see that you have this summation, okay? And then, oh sorry, that should be bring this inside, okay? Oh, I will put it outside. So this one should be inside the summation, okay? And then you have this 1 over the factorial of k, and then you have the derivative with respect to y in the three directions. Then each direction you are going to take a certain number of derivative. So you can write this three-dimensional form in a compact form like this one here, okay? So here I will mention a little bit here is the y is three-dimensional, and the k here has also three-dimensional. K factorial means k1 times k2 times k3, and the norm of the absolute value of k is k1 plus k2 plus k3. So this is the three-dimensional Taylor expansion. Okay, so this can help you understand the algorithm later. Okay. Okay, so now let's look at the idea about these two methods. Okay, tree code. Basically, you have a lot of particles in space. Then how do we use the tree code? Okay, basically you need to build a tree first. So you use a big box to contain all the particles there. And then you keep on dividing and keep on dividing, okay, until the box can contain at the most like 3. So here I use the n not equal 3 as example, okay, until you have 3 at the most, then you stop. Okay, now with this kind of tree structure, okay, what you can do is, if you want to compute the interaction between this particle to all the particle here, what you can do here is you don't have to do a particle interaction. What you can do is just do the interaction between this particle here to the center of this cluster. Okay, so basically this cluster is represented by the center, carried by certain weights. The weights is determined by the charge distribution inside this cluster. Okay, so that's the idea about the tree code. Okay, so for example, if you want to calculate the interaction from this particle to everything here, because they are pretty far, so you can just treat everything here as a cluster, right? So you just do the particle cluster interaction instead of do the particle interaction over there. So that makes things much easier. So the algorithm part is basically you do the particle-particle interaction, and then as I said, you need to use this multiple expansion I explained a few pages ago to give you the, but basically when you have the particles are very close, you still do the particle-particle interaction. But when the particle is pretty far from all the other particles there, you do the particle cross interaction using this multiple expansion idea. Basically, this is the Taylor expansion part, and this is the moments part, which has detail here. Okay, so this is the tree code algorithm, and the computational cost is n times log n. So the first n is what? How many particles we have? Because each particle is going to interact with all the other particles. So we have n particles. What is log n? That's the level, okay? That's the level. Because you don't have to interact with all the particles anymore. You just need to interact with the cluster at each level, okay? So n log n is the number of levels, okay? Okay, so this is the n log n tree code. Do you get the idea? Don't worry about too much about the detail of the formula, okay? If you want to, you can read the paper, get the detail. Okay, and then the next one is more complicated, okay, but it's even more beautiful. So this is called the fast multiple method, which is, if you Google, okay, top 10 numerical algorithm of the 20th centuries, okay, this is one of the methods over there, okay. So this is called fast multiple method there. So basically, yes, we have a lot of particles there. Okay. So and then how do we calculate the interaction? Okay. I mean, if we do the direct summation, that's O of n squared, right? So how do we make O of n log n? Okay. So the idea is the following. Again, you use a bigger box to contain them, and then you divide them. Okay. So this time you just keep on dividing. Okay. Don't know until the cluster eventually only contain one part. Okay. So you just keep on dividing. So here I just use this corner as example. Okay. So in fact, you should divide everything. Okay. Okay. And then you keep on doing that. Eventually, for example, you have this levels there. And then the idea is let's use some fast multiple method jargon. Okay. So basically, you have cluster at a different level. 0 level is the everything. Okay. And then level 1 is the blue one, 8 by 8. Level 2 is 4 by 4. Level 3, 2 by 2. Level 4, 1 by 1. Okay, so you have so many clusters over there. And then you also have the relationship parents and children. Okay, so parents means the lower level. Children is the high level. So for example, I will say this one has 4 children here, 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 and here. This one has 4 children here, here, and here. Okay. So that's parents and children. And neighbors, so basically it's cluster on the same level sharing at least one vertex. So basically this one and this one is neighbors. Okay, they need to have the same levels. Okay, so basically same size. As far as they share at least one vertex, they are neighbors. Okay, okay. So you know that parents, children relation. You know the neighbors, and then we want to do the interaction list. The interaction list means the cluster on the same level who are not neighbors but their parents. Okay, so this is important. Okay, cluster on the same level. Okay, means the same size of cluster. Who are not neighbors. Okay, which means they don't share any vertex, but their parents are. So this is the key point. Okay, interaction list. Okay, so this is definition. Okay, so this is like the exam I can give the students to figure out the interaction list. Okay, so now let's show you the interaction list. So basically, I want to see how this particle X interacts with other particle in the actual fast multiple algorithm. So the idea is the following. Okay, so for example, I have this X here, and then it will interact with the entire space with all the other particles. How they interact? First, for the other neighboring, okay, close to the cluster, this X, they do the direct summation. It's too close. You cannot use any multiple expansion because they're so too close to each other. Now, what about this? So then, when this X need to interact with the entire space, so we pick its neighbor. Okay. Interaction. Oh, we pick its interaction list. So what is the interaction list? They are not neighbors, but their parents are. So basically, if we pick this one here, the red one, then the interaction list is what? All the green ones, right? Because they are not neighbors, but their parents are, right? The parents of this one is here. This is the parents. And then the neighbor of the parents are what? Here, 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 right? The neighbor of parents. And then they need to be at the same level. So that's why you have the same 1 by 1 square. Does that make sense to you? So basically, in the interaction list of this one is the green one. Okay. Then I go one level up. So like if I make this black one here, what is the interaction list? It's all the orange one here. Okay. And then I keep one level up. This one here, the interaction list will be all the blue ones there. So basically, I use this interaction list. You can basically explain how the particle at X interacts with interaction with the entire space. When they are very close, direct summation. Okay, and then I go one level up. The red one, I interact with all the. So basically, I use this one as like a cluster to interact with all the green cluster over there. And then I go another level up. I treat this one as a cluster, interact with all the orange 2 by 2 over there. Okay, and then eventually the entire space. This is the idea of the interaction list. Okay, and then by doing that, okay, So the idea is I can have this cluster, okay, the information I put it in the center, and then I have used the cluster-cluster interaction, bring the impact of all these clusters into the center of the original one, okay? That's the interaction list, right? That's the interaction list, okay? And then after I got the impact for this one, I send it back to the original positions here. So this is the fast multiplier here. Hopefully you get the idea about the question, okay? Algorithm, I don't want you to look at detail. I just go through. It's called a double index. It's double multi-index piece order expansion. Okay? Basically, you are going to do the expansion about the center of this, also the center of this. Then you use the some operations there to get the final results there. But I don't want to go over detail. But it's just the key idea. Okay. I mean, if you read the paper about the detail. Okay, and then we can calculate the computational cost. You actually see at every step the computational cost is O of n. Okay, it's O of n. Okay, so also you can derive the details there. So this is about the tree code and fast multiple methods there, which play a very important role in solving the problem.
It will take like 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I spent quite a bit of time explaining this, and then I need to speed up. Okay, so basically, once you solve the problem, you see the memory usage is O of n. Okay, O of n, and the CPU time is also O of n. Okay, because this line is O of n. You see that at a different order, okay, different number of expansion, it's parallel to this one. So this is a direct summation CPU time. Okay. So this is the idea. And then let's look at the preconditioning. So I just quickly explain this idea. Okay. So basically, when you try to solve this AX equals B, and which is, as I said, equivalent to you just calculate the n-body problem. Okay. And when we do the triangulation, if we have a good triangle, okay, and a bad triangle, okay. So for good triangle, your Jim-Rest method will convert this just a few steps there. But if you run into bad triangles there, your Jim-Rest method will take a lot of steps. And how do we do the preconditioning? So the idea is when you try to solve AX equals B, you can actually multiply what we call the preconditioner matrix, a preconditioner, to the system. Then it becomes to solve this problem. Okay, and then the preconditioner we're looking for should have the two good properties. One is the M should be similar to A, and then the M inverse times A has improved the condition. Okay, so this is one condition is there. The other one is because eventually you multiply M inverse X, M inverse there, so you need to eventually solve for X. So which means you should be able to solve X efficiently. So the idea is in the n-body interactions here, near field interactions are stronger, but the computation is much less expensive compared with the far field interactions. This is observation, and this gives us idea. If you only keep the near field interaction, okay, so because you have the particle interaction in entire space, if you only keep the near field interaction, that is strong, almost equivalent to the total, but it's much simple because you only have near field interaction. So then you can. This is the way how to find the preconditioner. Okay. So the idea is you can just use the original matrix structure is look like this way. Okay. So this A is the original one. So M is the preconditioner. Okay. So they are different, but they are similar. Okay. Because the M has the most part, and M has this block structure. So solve M inverse times X equals Y is much easier. Okay. So that's why you also can permute it, make this structures there, and then use this preconditioner. You actually have a pretty good result. For example, when you solve this protein the problem, so originally the CPU time will be look like this way. Okay. But if you use the preconditioner, the CPU time is reduced by this way. This is some idea. And when you look at the embodied interaction, if you think about the physics, okay, you can actually help you to find out the good preconditioner. And then for this pairization, okay, I will quickly just skip, okay, because I have some more exciting than this to explain, okay. So I will just skip this. Basically some pairization. In the entire pipeline, we do some pairization there, okay. All of them, every steps there. And then we calculate on the MPI, we calculate on the GPU. We have pretty good pairization results there. Okay, for example, the original time is like this. Okay, if we do the pairization, we can get to like this. Okay, depending on how many cores. I think here we use 64 cores there. We get the pairization efficiency. I will skip that part. Okay, now let's come to the machine learning part. Okay, so as I said, I have been in numerical scientific numerical analysis for a while, so I always try to use numerical algorithms to solve the problem. But later, you have to do some machine learning, okay, as a computational scientist. Otherwise, you will lose your job, okay? So or lost the opportunity of getting fund or whatever there. So what we have here is we use this machine learning there. Idea there is we need to, from protein structure there, we can get, we should try to convert them into features. And then we can use labels that's known protein properties there, together with the feature to train the model. And then how do we get this feature? We need to think about mathematics there. For example, algebraic topology, geometry, electrostatic, we can get different features there to do the machine learning. Okay? So here we have two hypotheses. Number one is called representability hypothesis. Basically, it's the protein's electrostatic property can be described by a set of Poisson charts and their geometrical relationship to the solvent. The other one is the learning hypothesis. The protein electrostatic property can be effectively represented by a feature vector as described by the representative hypothesis there. Okay? So the key is to generate a uniform and multi-scale features. Okay? So uniform means what? No matter you have big protein, small protein, you have the same number of features. Okay? Multi-scale is depending on your computing power. You can have very fine picture of the protein. Okay, a lot of features there. But you don't. If you only have a laptop to do the calculation, you can only use a very small number of features there. So this is called uniform and multi-scale. This is what I'm trying to get. Okay. Now what I mentioned is we have two approaches to get features. One is from the topology, the other one is from the electrostatics. Okay, so let me explain this topology idea. Is we use this element-specific persistent homology idea. Okay, so the idea is let me use the this is some terms there. Okay, I know it's pretty well overwhelming, and if you just want to get it from my slides, okay, or my talk. So here I just highlighted the rare things that you need to know. Okay, so basically is you have a set of data points. Okay, for example, protein. You have a lot of atoms, and you have the atomic center of all the atoms there. And then you need to represent this data by with a family of simplistic complexes there. So what is the simplistic complexes there? You can see we need to know what do we call it K-simplex. Okay. So what is K-simplex? You can think that zero simplex is the vertex. Okay, so you have a lot of points, and then the point is the zero simplex, and then you connect these points. Okay, and they form edges. That is the one simplex. And then once you have 3 points, you connect them, then becomes a triangle. That's a 2 simplex. Or when you have a tetrahedron, it's 3 simplex. Okay, so basically the collection, okay, of K-simplex is what we call the simplistic complex. Okay, and then simplistic complexes. Okay, which means you have a lot of simplistic complex. Okay, what makes a lot of simplistic complex is you have what we call the proximate parameter. Okay, which is somehow like the radius of the sphere. Okay, so because you want to connect these points, you don't just directly connect all of them. Otherwise, it's meaningless. basically is you have each point, you give it a sphere, and you have this radius. You gradually expand this radius. Once you have the two spheres, they have the sphere overlapped, then you connect them. Okay, so which means that radius is called a proximate parameter there. And then what is the persistent homology? Basically, is once you create do the simplex complex there, you connect them. You may form ring. You may form holes there. If those holes and ring last for a while, when you expand the radius, okay, and then that is called the persistent. Okay, persistent. So this is just to give you some idea, the detail. Okay. So quickly, I can use this picture to represent it. Okay. So you have a lot of points over there. And you give a radius, okay, of this point, and then you let the radius becomes bigger and bigger, okay. So for example, you right now you have the radius as epsilon over 2, okay, that's the radius there. And then as far as you can define different syntax. Here is the two approach. For example, pick this one. As far as the radius overlap, then you connect them. Then you get some picture of this. So this is a simulation complex. Okay. Okay, and then what you can do here is example is like this one. Okay, here you have collection points. Then you expand the radius. Okay, you get it bigger and bigger there, and you have the corresponding simulation complex over there. Okay, and then for example, the original data is actually from an analysis. Okay, it's from an analysis, and then. So for the analysis, the important thing is what? Is this hole here, right? So, and then you actually see at this point here, you see the hole here, okay? And that lasts for a while. So this is important, called persistent topological features here, okay? Some of them are noise, some of them are actually topological information. Okay, so this is the idea. And then you can have this, what do we call it, barcode, okay? And then to convert this information, okay, into the barcode, which is the value number 0, 1, and 2. So value number 0 is number of connected components. Value number 1 is the tunnel or circle. Okay, number of tunnel or circle. Value number 2 is the number of cavities or voids. And then you can just get from the simulation complex there, you can get the barcode. Okay, get the barcode. And then from the barcode, okay, you can already represent a lot of protein mutation, protein ligand binding information over there. And then you can convert the barcode to the features. Basically, once you get these barcodes there, you cut it into small pieces there, and then each pieces you calculate the number of topological invariants. Okay, value number 1, value number 2. And then by a certain way, you can convert it to 1D images there, okay, to get it. This is the topological feature, okay. And then I also have like the electrostatic features. The idea is you use the point multiple to represent the charge. For example, you can use this point multiple to represent the entire space, or use this point multiple to represent the charges in this clusters here. So basically, originally you have different number of particles, but in terms of point multiple, it's going to be the same, no matter you have big protein or small protein. That makes it uniform in a multi-scale. Okay. So this is the electrostatic features here. So let's look at some results. Okay, about how to access the model performance. Basically, if you increase the level, okay. Do we have better result? Also, when you use larger data, do we have a better result? When you use the combination of the topological feature and the electrostatic feature, do we have better data, a good result? Okay. And then we have this machine learning model, how we get this data, how we pre-generate these labels, and how we calculate the features there. Okay, about the topological feature and the electrostatic feature. So the result is like this. Okay, so we put it into the neural network. Okay, and then we predict the salvation energy. Okay, so this is Coulomb interaction, Coulomb energy. we got a result like this. And here we have four quantity to characterize the accuracy of the prediction. Basically, PCC, Pearson coefficients, and R square. The close to 1, the better. Okay, and the mean square error and the mean average percentage error is the close to 0 is better. Okay, so we get if we just use the topological feature. Okay, and then if we just use the electrostatic features at different P and L, okay, we get some results there. So you can see when we increase the P and L, the result is getting bigger, better, and also when you use bigger data set, the data set with bigger number of data is also getting better. And then we also have this, when you use topological feature and electrostatic feature together, this is the one used topological feature only, this is the one used electrostatic feature only, and this is the one used both features, and then you also see some improvements there. Okay, so that's the result. Okay, and yeah, I'm sorry for the data part. I might be in a rush. Okay, but just the idea. We want to get a uniform and multi-scale features, which means that no matter you have big protein, small protein, you have same number of features. These features are from electrostatics interaction. Also, these features are from the topological idea. Okay, and then you will get to this result here. Yeah, this is something similar. Okay, to the okay, so this is the acknowledgement of my collaborators. It involves like faculty and the postdoctor and then also graduate students. Yeah, some undergraduate students can also get involved in the projects there. Thank you for your attention. Any questions?